Have you ever found yourself moving through life and feeling like you're just not achieving the results you really want to achieve, or saying, I've hit my max capacity, or getting frustrated because you're doing the same things you've used to do, yet they're not yielding the results you're looking for, and you're expending more energy and you're more tired and you're more frustrated overall with your process and how you're doing things? Well, today you're in luck because I'm going to share with you a process and a question that I have implemented into my daily life that has been a significant game changer for me, where I am seeing results compound. I am physically doing more with less energy and remaining so much more connected to my dream, my purpose, my mission, and those in my life that mean so much to me. Welcome to Whole Human Capacity. Mind, body, emotions, spirit, all in alignment. This show is for the high achievers who are done living in hustle, done running on stress, and ready for ambition without having to give up what your heart truly desires. Here we'll talk about what it means to live your life as a whole human, how your nervous system, your inner knowing, your daily choices all work together, and how to build a life that actually feels like yours, not one that just looks good on paper. Hi, I'm Erica Resch, a retired family physician, a mom of 3, and a life coach who has rebuilt my life around what I refuse to regret. Hey there, welcome back. Today we're going to dive into a topic and a question that was truly an up-level for me. I would consider myself reasonably dialed in, although it's always improving, always evolving to my own energy, to my process and things of that nature. But today I want to share with you something that shifted a lot for me recently, and I'm seeing the total return on my investment with this one question that was brought to my attention. And I think for those of us who really are desiring to live very energy efficiently in our most potent form, this is a necessity as a part of your daily routine, as a part of your process when you plan out your week, as a part of your way that you just see the world. And one of the things that you have built into, just like tying your shoes or drinking a glass of water, it becomes a question and a series of questions that you're asking yourself routinely. Because if we do, we will always be unlocking greater and greater abilities that we have, a greater and greater potential that we can tap into. So let me start by telling you the story about how this all came to fruition. I was in a call with Nick Truby, who I've had on the podcast before. He is my brother-in-law and also working with me as a personal trainer. And I was sharing with him where I was maxing out on certain exercises he had me doing, certain maneuvers. And what came across during our conversation was I was expending a lot of energy just to get into the position of the actual movement he was planning for me to do, because I was lifting weights off the floor into an upright position and realizing that that amount of energy was making me more tired than I needed to be. And he said this question to me that really stopped me in my tracks, which was, well, why don't you just stage your weights? What he was really saying in a different format was, how can you set yourself up to be successful in this maneuver? And what transpired was I started putting my weights up on my weight bench. So I was no longer lifting big kettlebells from the ground into an upright position. I was starting already in an upright position. And I found myself lifting more weight with more repetition. And feeling that in my body was very profound, because what it showed me was where I was truly, as you might say, upper limiting myself, where I was capping my potential because I had not taken a few moments to zoom out to that like 30,000 foot view and really ask myself, what's the objective, right? The objective in these maneuvers he's having me do is to zero in on a specific muscle group and isolate that muscle group, right? And strengthen that muscle group. It's not to see how hard I can make a workout on myself and how much I can just move around the gym and stress myself out and use all my energy for anything and everything. That's not the objective. But it's really showed me where I lived a lot of my life from the second, the second example I just gave you, because I was not building this concept and this question into everything that I do. And so what this helped me do, right? What this showed me was that if I take out the part of the process that is not necessary for me to achieve the objective I'm looking for, in this particular scenario, that was lifting weights over and over again up off the floor to an upright position, and I set myself up for success, what I saw was the highest utilization of my precious, potent energy that yielded a more potent result. This is profound if you take a step back and think about it. So the invitation I'm offering for you today is to ask yourself, where can I stage my weights? Where can you take this idea of staging your weights and apply this to other arenas of your life? And for me, this question actually has a few sub-questions underneath it that come into play. The first one is, what is the overall most potent objective of what I'm doing, right? What's the point? What is the most refined use of my energy that I'm trying to achieve right now? The second question that comes in play is, how can I set myself up to achieve that specific objective? In the scenario I was offering to you, one of the maneuvers that Nick was having me do was a farmer's carry, which is where you stand up and you hold kettlebells and you march in place or you walk around. And that objective, I was able to obtain multiple more reps and significantly higher amount of weight because I started from a place that set me up for success. This is where I think the rubber meets the road, where we start getting very precise with how we're using our energy because we're treating ourselves as the most potent thing in the room, as the most important part of our day, as the most necessary asset to the bigger picture. The third question that comes into play here is, what part of the process can I cut out, delegate, streamline so that my energy is being used for the most potent action steps? What I found when I did this was a few interesting things came up. And so I want to offer them to you in case this happens to you. And to provide that, I think some of this is the common human response when we start getting very specific and we start feeling our energy move in our body in a very, very refined and potent way. It can shake the nervous system a little bit because it's a lot of energy and it's vast and it's very powerful. We're tapping into our innate power because we're not diluting our energy for anything else but what we're here to do. And so I found myself doing a couple of things, and I just want to offer these to you as, just kind of like, hey, we're all human, and here's what might happen. And so if this happens to you, know that you're kind of doing a good job because this might be, it's working because you're shifting things. The first one I found was I found myself comparing myself to other people's processes or what I perceived that it would be. Kind of like, I like to watch a lot of documentaries on like elite athletes and CrossFitters and all these things. And you watch them and they're picking up these massive weights off the ground and then they're coming to a standing position. And so I found myself being like, well, I'm not doing a good enough job if I'm not doing all of that stuff, which was very interesting. It's kind of a flavor and a shade of like, it's not worthy unless it's really hard. And I think for me personally, that is one of the things that I have found as an undercurrent for me that allowed me to play safe in arenas where I was actually pretty good at what I did. And so if you make things extra hard, then it doesn't come easy and then you're worthy for it. And then now you're allowed to have it. So I'm just throwing that out there for you, that if you find that coming up for you when you ask yourself these questions, let it just be okay. Let it kind of wash over you and go back and focus in on the actual question at hand. The second thing I did was I was comparing myself to where I was before. So for me, when I start unlocking something in one arena of my life, the question I ask myself is, okay, if this is really true, how I do one thing is how I do everything. So let's see where else I'm doing this. Where else am I diluting my energy and using my energy in parts of the process that really are not yielding the potent result I desire. And so one of the ones that came up was the grocery store. A year ago, I would tell you, because it was a time where I was taking extended time off to really go inward and to reframe my life, and it was part of my growth process. Going to the grocery store was therapeutic for me. Going to the grocery store and picking out the food for my family was where I needed to be. I needed to recenter back into that space and accustom myself and accommodate my body to that version of me. Well, it's interesting because when I ask myself now, where I'm at now, the grocery store is not a place I desire to be that often right now. And so for me, ordering groceries and going to pick them up or Instacarting them to my house is actually really what is helping me be in my most successful, my most potent state, because going to the grocery store at this current time for me is a true dilution of my energy. Now, will that change in the future? Maybe. But at this very moment, that's where I know I need to be my most potent way of living in this world. The other thing that happened was I could hear the chatter of other people's voices in my head. And I think this is common for a lot of us. This is what happens as a human. This is the human experience. This is the brain and the nervous system trying to protect you, trying to get us to go back into the familiar state of being where we know we've always been and where everything is the same so that we can predict it and then we're safe. Couple things that would come up for me was like, you're not strong enough if you're not lifting the weights off the floor all the time. Like, you're not really achieving what you really, really want to achieve, which isn't a true statement, but it is based upon kind of that comparison that I mentioned before. The other one, like for the grocery store example, that is really, I just think we really do this to ourselves as moms, particularly. I think everybody in their own form can do this, but I'm speaking specifically to moms right now, because we will set these standards for ourselves that maybe we're, like I said about the grocery store, maybe we're a boundary or a way of living that actually supported where I was at the time. That version of me, and we can talk about that another time, really needed to connect to me as the mom, to embodying and allowing myself to be a mom and be home with my kids and rewire that, right? So what was coming up for me was a good mom goes to the grocery store. The real moms do that, right? The moms who are really in it for their kids, they're the ones putting their hands on the food and picking out the food. And that all may be well and true. And there was a time in my life where I needed to do that. And there might be a time again in the future that I might need to do that. But right now, I don't get a yes to that. And so it's really having our own back as we ask ourselves these questions and really honing in on the specific objective. That is why I led this process by saying, what is my objective? Zoom out to 30,000 feet. That's what Nick was asking me. What is the objective? Are you here to lift as much weight as you can all over the gym and just see how much you can move around from here and there? Or are you trying to actually get certain muscles stronger so that you, Erica, can climb a mountain and feel really good as you do it? And I was like, oh, okay, I got it. Need to really hone in on the objective. And another tip I'd like to offer that kind of plays on this is, if you're having some chatter or you're having a little trouble navigating this, ask yourself right now. I love adding that to the end of a question because it puts our brain in a frame of reference of this present moment where we can have compassion and make peace for what it used to be. And we can also allow and open up for what it could be, right? Both are on the table, but we're really asking ourselves in this moment, what is going to set me up for success right now? Because we all move through seasons, as I say. Like, we all move through times in our life where certain things are really in the highest service to us, and then they kind of ebb and flow. And like the grocery store thing for me, maybe it's not right now. So allowing ourselves to kind of reframe and hone in on this very moment actually gives ourselves and our brain some constraint so we get the answers we're looking for in the most loving and compassionate way. What I have found is a significant return on my investment in spending a few minutes asking myself this question. From a workout perspective, like I shared, my workouts have improved significantly, and I can feel I am getting so much stronger because I am not diluting my energy and I'm using my physical energy in a very precise way to achieve the goals and the desires I have. When it comes to how I've applied this in my life overall, what I've noticed is I have more work or more energy at the end of my day because I am using my energy to stay in my lane, my zone of genius more and more. I'm not diluting my energy and spending my energy going to the grocery store, for example. And when I've done that, and since I've streamlined my process, I feel at the end of the day, I'm more available for my family. I am more at calm and at peace. I'm starting to sleep better. I have more overall peace about my life because here's what's happening is my body, my nervous system, my humanness is feeling safer and safer to expand. My body is feeling safer to catch up to the dreams that I have and the visions that I get, right? This, I think, allows for us to relieve a lot of the frustration and the angst that we get as visionaries and as high performing, high achieving, driven people because we see where it's possible for us to go. We're getting pieces and parts of the puzzle. And if we are not really asking ourselves the question, how can I set myself up for success? What part of this process is mine? What part can I delegate? How do I stay so precisely in my lane? If we're not doing that, I believe what I've noticed in my body and I see across the board in my clients is a lot of frustration and angst because you're moving against your innate energy and you're diluting your energy. And naturally, we as humans, I think, truly desire that feeling state in our body where we are in flow, where we are aligned. And the more we ask ourselves this question, the more we actually do the 3D work of shifting the way we do things, of really seeing maybe I've done it this way for so long because it's what I've done for 15 years and I haven't asked myself what parts of this really aren't really loving and kind to me or sustainable for me or exciting and fun for me to do. All of those questions or all of those ways of looking at it are what adds up to the true overall question. What is going to set me up for the most success? What is going to align my energy so precisely that my results are so incredibly potent? And as we do that, and as we in different arenas of our life do this, our body becomes safer and safer, and we start to settle in, and we start to see how the puzzle pieces are coming together. Our filter of how we see the world starts to shift because now we're seeing the evidence for how things are working and not how they're not working. When we are expending energy in parts of the process that are not yieldful for us, naturally, the brain is going to start telling you this isn't working, right? Because you're not getting the results you really want or you really desire, what you see in your mind's eye. And so you're going to naturally scan for how it's not working and what problems you need to fix. There are times where that way of looking at things is helpful. But in this case, in this scenario, what I'm offering to you is I think the reverse is even more powerful, where you get so good at asking yourself, what can be cut out? What will make this better? How can I do this more successfully? How can I do this more easily? How can I stage my weights? So I actually am doing the most potent part of this process, this thing, whatever it is, and your filter will start shifting because your energy is now in overflow and you're receiving energy back. So you're not going to be trying to figure out how things are not working because they're working. And you really feel the energy in your body of you can't make this up. Those types of synchronous moments start happening completely all the time because you've become so accustomed now to a standard of living that is way higher energetically than how you've lived before. And as long as you keep doing it, and as long as you keep building this into your routine and asking yourself this question, it's going to happen more and more. It's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable because what happens, like I said, is you just live in your most pristine energy flow. And it's absolutely amazing. So from one question that was asked to me, and then started to filter into all these other arenas. And fascinatingly, what always happens as a sidebar is, at least for me, and I think this is for most of us, you unlock kind of like this door in one conversation. And then I'm working with another coach who's saying to me, hey, what if you were to not go to the grocery store anymore? I'm like, that's the same question. And then you're seeing it over here. Ooh, what if somebody else had to drive carpool in a different way? That's the same question. What if I instead hired out this part of my business so that I can stay in my creativity and do the content piece? That's the same question. What if I were to tell my kids they all have to do their laundry now, right? Which has always been the state in our house, but I'm just saying, like, there's just different things that start to open up. And it's fascinating how one door unlocks in a conversation and you start to filter that into all these different arenas of your life. And your energy flow just exudes from you because you now are like, I don't know how to word it. It's almost like watching, what comes to my mind is watching like an Olympic sprinter. And once they get their start lined up, once they get, everything in line and that precision that happens and they run flawlessly and you just see them glide, like running like the 100-meter dash, like to the finish line. That level of flow is what starts to happen. And I'm inviting you to that today through a very simple yet profound devotion, discipline, ritual, conversation with yourself, process, whatever word resonates the most with you, build it into your life. I'm just telling you that much. Build it into your life because it's a game changer. And I wish for you to feel your energy flow course through you, where you are so attuned, so aligned, so embodied that your presence here on this earth is something that others just feel and it resonates from you. And you know it resonates from you, where you're just in that space. I know this process, this question, this series of questions can get you there. And if this resonates with you, take it, put it in your back pocket, take it with you wherever you go and utilize it and pass it along. It's a game changer. It has been for me, and I know it can be for you. Keep going. You got this. And as soon as you hear this question and take it in, it's go time. Let's do this. I'll talk to you soon. So if this resonated with you, if you are ready to see where you can set yourself up to be more successful, to live in your energy in a way that is way more potent than what you're doing right now, email me at erica@wholehumancapacity.com and we'll talk about it. We'll dive in and we'll see if we are fit to work together to do this exploratory work, the deep inner work of asking these questions such as this so that you can see the results in your life, in your mission, and in your dreams that truly impact you and everyone around you. And if you really resonated with this message, please follow along, like, or pass this episode along to somebody who you know would love to hear this.